This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Pop Culture Podcast. Nothing is better than watching Molly dance, eating ravioli, and vaping at the same time. Nothing is better in life than that. Thank you, Molly.
Multitask.
Killing the game with that.
Thank you for that. Our guest this week is writer and director Brian Klewin. Thanks for coming on, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris.
Now, you have a new film coming out, The Box Fort, which we saw. You submitted that to Twisted Dreams, and let me tell you, that was an awesome film. It was really, really great. I'm curious about the genesis of that film because you made it during COVID. What was that process like, making a film during this pandemic lockdown?
So we were actually very fortunate that I made it in February of 2020. So we actually beat the COVID. We could kind of like sense the urgency to make this film before things started to, it was like the end of February. So we were like, really like we could feel what was coming. So that fast tracked it, but I had probably only written it in December. It had been in my head for many, many years, probably. I was knocking around this idea of making something out of the central piece being this like childhood box fort and having like that be the center for the scares. And yeah, I mean, since then I wrote it and then we made it. And I think that's, I guess, I don't know if that answers the COVID part of it, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I thought that watching the film, I thought that it was inspired by COVID. You know, you got to do this closed set with limited cast, but you had some really talented Milwaukee area people on that. I mean, Spencer Ortega, the guy does everything in Milwaukee. You know, he's
a genius.
Yeah.
He also, I mean, he's just, he's a brilliant filmmaker. He lends his skill sets in many ways, and I can't say enough good things about him. So if you can get him on your set, hire him, please.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. You know, everything good that I see, you know, Milwaukee films that are good, like Spencer has some hand in it somehow. So,
yeah. And we had a really talented cinematographer. Him and I have been talking for a few years now about making something, and it was just like the timing finally matched up. And like I said, there was like this urgency, and him and I both were just talking. We were like, we're making this right now. Like, we're not waiting. We could wait a few more months, you know, keep doing things. But I had somebody cast, and like they were kind of just trying to figure out other things in their life, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure something out to make sure that this gets made when we were gonna make it. So that was like the reason that it almost didn't get made, I guess. But wow. Yeah, I really like. I didn't think that I could actually cast the person I asked to cast originally because I thought they were unavailable, and I asked them, and they were like, "Yeah, I would love to do it." So that's who you see in the actual film.
Mm-hmm. Nice. You've got a world premiere coming out at the Horror Hound Film Festival. Congratulations on that. That's
thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah,
very excited.
Online only, unfortunately. I miss film festivals. I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to see this at Twisted Dreams Film Festival in June too. Can't say anything official, but I've got a good feeling that this film is going to get in.
It's a really nice film. It's very well done. It got me.
That's awesome.
That's it. Got out, and it's in.
Yeah, and we were trying to we were really trying to showcase what we could do, because this film functions as a short, but it also functions as a proof of concept for something bigger. And I think I hope that when you watch it, you felt that you were like, well, I want to know more, or like I want to know what's going on with this whole situation, because that was my goal. So you let me know if I accomplished that.
Well, you accomplished that in such it's a fairly small setting. And yeah, it definitely left me wanting to know more. And that's kind of what I love in shorts like that, when they leave you on, I wish that was longer, you know.
So I come from the school of like, I have to get things made. I think you can kind of understand that what I'm talking about. Always just trying to get my next project made. So I try to write like what we're calling now contained horror, and the feature film version of this would definitely fall under the contained horror thing. Something that I can make with a lower budget, but still punch above my my budget level, and make sure that I'm putting out something that's really commercially viable. That's what we tried to do with this, and I think it's been well received. I've been able to talk to some producers just by sending it to them, and because it's so short, they're actually taking the time to watch it. So yeah, it's been cool so far.
It's short, but it really gets the point across, and it grabs you, and it grabs your attention. And
for everybody at home, can you just explain the plot? Because I'm sure some people are like, what the hell are they talking about?
Sure. So the Box Fort is about a single mom in she's just moved in with her 2 kids to a new home, and they're unpacking the boxes. And while they're doing that, the kids have put together a giant box fort in their living room. And the kids get sent to bed, and once that happens, the mother kind of finds some items in her box, like her package boxes that is not supposed to be there. And after that, the power goes out, and weird, strange things start to happen. And I won't give away too much more other than that, but I think that's a pretty good synopsis of it.
Yeah, you won't want to go into a box fort after watching that movie.
Yeah.
So this is following up Deer Lights, which when did you make Deer Lights?
We shot Deer Lights in 2018, in like March of 2018. I think we did some pickup days. It was a really ambitious film, and because it was one of my first times working with like a bigger crew, I kind of didn't know how to manage that. So my time, we were working like, we were doing like 5-6 hour shoot days, sometimes on the weekends when we could. So it ended up being a lot longer shoot than what I would do now. That would have been a 2 or 3 day shoot now. I think we did like 9 days. I could shoot a feature film in that now. So.
No doubt. Yeah, that was the movie was really well received at our festival at Twisted Dreams. Won some awards. How was it received at other festivals? Did you submit it to other festivals? And
I submitted it to some other festivals. We went to Beloit, a really cool film festival in Cincinnati called Cindependent, and that festival was really well received. And there's a lot of like talk back and things like that. A good conversation was started, and I learned a lot about how to talk about substance abuse and mental health and things like that. So it was good. I had already, I live it, but understanding how to talk about it is different than experiencing it, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Tom says Deer Lights, was that the Drifter film in France, right?
I want to see that movie.
No, that's not done. Do you want to explain what Deer Lights was about?
Sure. Deer Lights was a movie about a dysfunctional family. That the father was an opioid addict, substance abuser, and it's kind of just a surreal film about he's further along in his drug use than he's not, and he's kind of at the end of his days, and we're just observing him going through a day, and it ends very tragically, but not in the way that you probably would expect.
Is that available online for people to watch?
Yeah. Yep. It's like it's not password protected, but it's an 18 and over kind of film on YouTube. So nobody watches it yet. So someday they'll probably find it, but
nobody's seen it yet. What is it on?
It's got like 102 views. It's because I think you have to actually sign in to view it because you have to be an adult.
Oh, but it's free to watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll
Why
find
don't
it.
you go check it out, guys?
I'll find it and put it in the description because you need to see that movie. It's a good movie.
It was good.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
looking at your YouTube. You did a music video with Ray Nitty.
Yeah, just recently that came out. Really cool video too. It's kind of an action film, slow burn, but it's an action film. And yeah, it's just seeping with style. It's supposed to be kind of a Tarantino-esque, I guess. Samurai swords.
Can't go wrong with samurai swords.
Never. There's a little blood splatter too.
Right. It's your YouTube channel's in the. Check it out because there's some good stuff on there. So you said you're working on you're writing a feature now. Can you drop?
So I've written. I'm on like the third or fourth draft of a feature film version of The Box Fort, which is a supernatural psychological thriller about the kid from the short film, the boy grown up. So it's a movie about how someone deals with childhood trauma of losing a parent. And they were already dealing with the fact that this was a single mom and the father was out of the picture. So he was ultimately raised by his grandmother, and he's kind of estranged from his sister because she's kind of has a somewhat normal life. And I will pull the thread from my Dear Lights into this, where he's a substance abuser at the beginning of the film, and that's kind of his arc, is to overcome that. And as he does that, he becomes a little bit disassociated from reality. And some of the coping mechanisms he uses is to build a box fort, and he's an adult collector of toys as well.
Oh, sweet. After my own heart. Yeah, it's really cool to see these short horror films get expanded on into feature films. Like we played Polaroid, we played that short, and that became just an amazing feature film. So yeah, best of luck. I hope I hope you are able to really make it amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I can't wait to bring it to Twisted Dreams someday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I can't wait to see it.
We'll play the shit out of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play it. So did you go to film school here in Milwaukee?
I did not.
Yeah.
I actually came from the school of thought that I couldn't make money as an artist. So I went to college for accounting and finance, and then instead of studying for the CPA exam, I was moonlighting as a filmmaker. So you could only, when you're working at these accounting firms, you can only do that for so long before they are like, either you take the exam or you're out. So that happened to me. And then I was able to I have, a really strong accounting background. So I was still able to do a part-time gig while I was transitioning to full-time filmmaker. And now it's been 4 years that I do like corporate videos, interviews, weddings, starting to do more commercial work. And then music videos have started to pay as well. And then, the narrative stuff is the drum that I've been beating the whole time, the whole reason that I've been doing any of that other stuff. So
nice. So what draws you into being a filmmaker?
For me, it's just it's the ultimate medium for telling stories. And I just feel like I have so many stories. It's just like the life that I lived before I even knew what my life was, is crazy now to think about. I had a sister who was killed when I was 7 years old, very tragically. And it's kind of like been part of my arc the whole time. It's just like, I don't know how else to do anything but be a storyteller and artist. So that's probably the biggest why I am a filmmaker.
Yeah, our past is our past really creates our future. It's great. I'm sorry to hear about your sister. That's a horrible thing to go through, especially as a 7-year-old. Can't imagine that.
Thank you.
Who are some of your inspirations as filmmakers? Who do you look up to?
There's so many different filmmakers that I look up to. The top of my list starts with like Steven Spielberg, and then it goes down to like every horror director I could think of. So John Carpenter is one of my earliest favorites. I'll start with all my earliest favorites. So Spielberg, John Carpenter, and Clive Barker. Yeah, because I grew up on just like the Hellraiser movie on repeat on a VHS copy and just kept on running that thing out. And then those are probably like some of the biggest, earliest influences for me. And Tim Burton. I always say Tim Burton because I was like a Beetlejuice nut as a kid. You know, I like had all the action figures. I still have them. It's like, just loved that show. The movie. It was just
man. Be careful about meeting your heroes, because John Carpenter, like, he was one of my biggest heroes as well. He still is, but like he was like the man. And then I met him, and he's the biggest asshole you would imagine to meet. Oh God, he's
just such an old man. But if you hear him talk about film, he just sounds kind of like he's a little angry. I don't know why, but
very angry at the studio system, the way the studio played him with his films. But
yeah,
he's just oh God, he's just mean. He's mean. I don't know. Look, there's stories about him online, and yeah, that was probably the worst experience I had meeting somebody. So I was so excited to meet him, and but what are you gonna do?
I'll just make sure that he's like not on the list of people to meet. I really wish, there's a lot of like filmmakers that I'll never get to meet. So it's just like, whatever. I won't even get into it.
Yeah.
But Stanley Kubrick would have been, like, I should have put him, because as an adult, he's kind of my favorite filmmaker.
Yeah. I would give anything to just pick his brain for 10 minutes.
Yeah. He was probably a real big dick too, from what I heard, but
yeah,
if you could get 10 minutes of picking his brain, it probably would have been pretty awesome.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So you said that your personal life kind of inspire your history, your past kind of inspires your stories. Is there anything else that inspires you to write these stories?
Yeah. I mean, because of all of the childhood trauma that I went through, my parents were divorced very young. And obviously the death of my sister was a big part of that. But then I went through like a period of what I thought was very normal, but I was not a normal person. So it just, my teen years were very angsty. My 20s, I unfortunately was, trying to figure out who I was. And that came with a lot of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I have a lot to talk about. And it's just, if you're talking about inspiration as far as life, that's why I'm still trying to make these types of stories. I think horror films, especially, which is the genre that I'm drawn to because of my love for horror, but also I think it's just a great place to talk about things that have a little gravity to them and still entertain people.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to ever make movies that are just like talking about an issue or I want to be an entertainer as is first and foremost. And then if I am able to talk about interesting characters, that's just a bonus for me. And that's my goal as a writer. So.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about that. You think about like a horror film with like an emotional angle, a horror film that brings out your emotions other than just like fear. It's an interesting concept.
What do you think, Molly? Do you buy into a film like that more when like the characters are a little more real?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I like them when there's a little bit more substance to it than just typical run of the mill
teenagers getting killed in a forest somewhere.
Horror movie. Yeah. I mean, those are the ones that stick with me the most, the ones that have that different kind of emotional appeal, or the character that you can relate with, that's not just that. And I think I mentioned before the horror films that have the comedy in with them as well.
Oh yeah,
are always like the Tucker and Dale versus Evil type style.
That's awesome.
Well, I am trying to work on that, like having like after a scare, having like a moment of relief with some comedy, or it doesn't have to necessarily be like laugh out loud comedy, but like, oh, that's funny to me kind of comedy.
Yeah.
And that's really tricky, but if you can do it well, I think that really grabs an audience.
Yep. Horror and comedy, it's a very delicate mix, but if you do it right, man, it really works.
Yeah.
I was never really a horror film fan from the beginning.
Neither is my wife. She hates horror films. She hates them.
I don't hate them. I mean, I still haven't seen like the Saw or Human Centipede movies. Chris keeps trying to get me to watch them.
Gotta see at least two. Human Centipede Part 2.
Yeah, the first Saw for sure. That's a really like the ticking clock kind of thing in a horror with some of these like contained rooms. It's very.
I know it's more of a psychological thing, but the ones that just mess with you could see that being.
The scene where the woman falls into the syringes is.
Oh, see.
That's the scariest thing I think I've ever seen on film, because I'm like, I've got a phobia of needles, especially dirty needles. I used to deal with like Walgreens when I worked there, and oh god, that was
oh my gosh.
But this
so go ahead, sorry, Molly.
No, I was just gonna say this festival and also dating Tom, who's a huge horror junkie, has broadened my horizons, and I mean I've grown to love the horror genre, but it
was fun. You got to see horror though with other people though. You know, you like I keep saying this. I swear I say this every week. You know, festivals, theaters, those are the best places to see horror films, because you're feeding off each other's energy. You know, there's a big audience around you. You know, everybody's like just getting scared at the same time, and you can just feel that energy in the air, and it's just so much better than sitting at home watching it on your couch in your underpants.
And I can already the pulse. I can feel it. Like people are starting to be like, I actually really want to go back to a movie theater. Like it's starting to. At first people were like, nah, I don't need that. I got everything at home. But I think they're starting to just feel it. Like I need to be at a movie theater for some of this stuff.
Yeah, I haven't been to a theater in over a year.
Yeah, me either.
There's just something about that experience of, watching that movie on the big screen with all the people around you and getting their, reactions.
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons we started the Twisted Dreams Festival. We wanted, Milwaukee didn't have anything for horror. We have the Milwaukee Film Festival, but they have an aversion to horror. They don't really play anything, and we just didn't have anything. So we thought Milwaukee.
And how lucky we are that you actually have like a real movie theater. And I still to this day, when we were at all these festivals with Deer Lights, that was the best theatrical screening we had was at the Twisted Dreams, because it's.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Just such a gorgeous theater. Just the best it has looked is in that theater. So. Yeah,
Mark, the guy that does that, he's the programming director for the neighborhood theater group that owns the Times and the Avalon and the Rosebud. He takes all of our films ahead of time and he converts them all into DCP format, and he just
so lucky.
Everything TLC. Yeah,
he balances like the audio on them too, doesn't he?
He does.
He plays them ahead of time, and he does a great job. And it is a beautiful theater. And
I felt like I was like, oh well, that's how the movie's supposed to be. I'd never want to see it anywhere else. And a lot of festivals they play it on like, projectors in a coffee shop and stuff like that. So it's fun to be in those rooms with people, but it's not the same as being in a movie theater, a real movie theater, and seeing that thing on there. And not a lot of festivals seem to have that experience anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, finances, theaters are charging more now, and festivals, people think that some filmmakers think that festivals are like a ripoff. They charge submission fees and it's crazy. Well, it costs a lot to put a festival on. Like it costs a lot. We don't get paid for doing this. Everything we take in, we put right back into the festival. We bring guests in. We had Joe Bob, Lloyd Kaufman was going to come, but then the pandemic broke out. And I said, I don't want to bring Lloyd, because Lloyd was still going to come like a month before the festival. And I said, I don't want to be the festival that Lloyd Kaufman got COVID at.
Yeah.
I don't want
how terrible with that.
Being the guy that killed Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah, like headline is just trauma or something,
Yeah. But we're planning for 2022. 2022 is definitely going to be in person. We're already planning some pretty cool things. So
cool.
We'll have it.
Very excited for that.
Maybe you'll have your next film done, and we'll have.
That's the plan, is to have something Are you still planning on keeping it as a spring festival, or I heard some talk of moving it?
The big Milwaukee Film Festival is moving to the spring.
So
we
good.
We chose springtime because that was the complete opposite end of the calendar year that the Milwaukee Film Festival. So we'll probably be in October.
It feels so much better to hear that, like a horror festival in October in Milwaukee. It's going to hit the sweet spot, I think.
Yeah, it's much better timing.
It is.
It's when everyone's just hungry. They're like, wait, horror? There's a festival full of it? I'm there. I'm into it.
My Halloween fix.
Yeah.
I don't watch anything but horror all of October.
Yeah. Well,
it's like your favorite?
Oh God, just everything. I like to watch Trick or Treat has been like a big one that I keep until like, the last week of Halloween. I always do Halloween because that's just, an obsession of mine, that movie. And then like the Nightmare on Elm Street, I should have talked about that earlier, is like probably my favorite franchise as far as like the slashers go. I like that it's got the supernatural stuff. And like there's just like nowhere to run from that character, and it's terrifying. It's always terrified me.
What's your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film?
Well, the first one.
Why is it part 3?
Well, the first one. Part 3 is really awesome. Obviously, but I just don't. I've never really liked films that are in psychiatric wards. I feel like it's like a cop out for like, mental health. It's like not everyone's in a psych ward that has mental health issues. So that's my only reason that I don't love that one as much as the first one. But I do love Dream Warriors.
What are some current horror films that you like?
Okay, but my favorite moment is when she goes, "and bad," when she flips out the little switchblade.
Yep.
So tacky. I love it. There's a lot of good campy moments in there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the 80s was probably the 80s is my favorite decade for horror films.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably as far as like the craft goes and like practical effects and things like go, that's like the pinnacle. It was like when people were just like, everything should be practical.
No.
It totally trumps Freddy, cause
I disagree.
Oh gosh. Jason, we didn't even see that guy until we didn't see him with the mask on until the third movie?
Third one, yeah.
Think about the sleep deprivation, and you can't hide from Freddy unless you're not sleeping. And
Jason just run away, just walk briskly away.
Right.
But in the game you can teleport.
Yeah, that's not fair. The game is evil.
Oh God, that was the worst game. Are you talking about like the Nintendo, or was that Atari? What was it?
No, it's the new one that came out.
Oh, okay.
Years ago. There's Jason versus Capcom. I know the Nintendo.
The old vintage one. Oh, it's bad.
Yeah. There was one for the Commodore 64 I had when I was before Nintendo, and that one was bad. Like Jason was just a dude wearing black, and he had black hair. He didn't even have his mask. That was bad. That was a bad one. Look that up on YouTube, Friday the 13th, Commodore 64. You'll be amazed at how bad that is. Like Jason could disguise himself as other camp counselors, like girls in dresses. You hit him to find out if that was Jason or not.
Scary, super scary.
The Jason movie that really got me was the one that's in space. Which one is that? Because there you really don't have much places.
Oh, Jason in Space. I don't know if I've ever seen that one actually.
What is that one called? Which one was that?
Jason X, and that one.
Jason X. Yeah,
wasn't that bad. That had what's his name? David. Now I'm blanking on his name. Famous horror director, David. Naked Lunch. What's his name?
Tom says Jason's simple. Don't bug him. Don't go to Crystal Lake.
Yeah, don't go.
But Jason X, they find
him.
No,
he comes all over the place, right?
In cryostasis somehow, and
he gets an upgrade. He's like RoboCop.
Yeah, and then they bring him into space, and something happens where he comes out of his cryostasis, and he's just pissed off on the spaceship.
Yeah, he fights an android. This android girl.
Yeah.
I do like Jason because like he feels like another dominant force in nature, like while you're in nature.
Yeah.
He's never really, he's not a city dweller, but if you're out in the woods, maybe you that's who you feel when you're out in the woods. You're always thinking about, maybe Jason's out there somewhere a little bit. especially if you're on a lake, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jason, he started out as a very sympathetic character.
I was just gonna say, I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
He's just such a tortured soul.
Yeah. Then
His mom was the real horror, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Evil. The real evil.
So I asked you before, but what are some modern horror films that you like?
Well, I've been really just, it's hard. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, modern stuff I watch so much of, and I burn through it so quickly that it's like hard to retain some of it. But I did like The Boy. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if you've seen that one.
That's on my
weird.
back.
It's weird. It's cool. I liked some of it. What's another good one that I've seen? Well, I obviously, like, if we're talking in the last 10 years or 5 years, I like all of the stuff that like James Wan has done with Warner Brothers, like the Conjuring stuff.
Yeah, those are awesome.
The Conjuring really scared, like, that one freaked me out.
The Conjuring was scary. Yeah, it was very, very tense. You know,
the whole time he's great at that. Like, Insidious is one of my favorite horror movies, and I just thought he was, masterful in that. And then everything that he took from that to when he went over to Warner Brothers was just crazy. How to make like those commercially giant blockbusters and still just make them like they're just great horror. At the end of the day, that's what it is. It's just like, it's great horror that they're making.
Yeah.
And I like what they produce too. So like Lights Out, I thought was pretty interesting. I think the screenplay could have been a little different, and there would have been another just perfect movie. But I liked a lot of the elements there. And I like that. I like that movie a lot. What else? I don't know. Trying to think of some other good ones. Oh, I mean, it's not super recent, but like I always talk about how Drag Me to Hell is one of my favorite movies ever. So
that's PG-13. Like
oh my God.
He pushed
that movie is terrifying. It's like that's one of the most terrifying movies, and I just love the screenplay. Like it's brilliant. There's a roller coaster of emotions, and the ending every time I'm just like, it's just it gets me good every time.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen that, I would say Sam Raimi is a genius, horror genius. Everything he makes is pretty top notch.
Yeah, and if you're watching this podcast, you have no reason not to watch it because, like I said, it's PG-13. I can't believe that movie is PG-13. Like it's bloody too. Like and it's terrifying. I
would say there's one scene in particular where she's in this graveyard and there's all this rain pouring down, and it's like causing like it's a graveyard, and she's inside of a grave that's just been put in the earth, and it's not covered with soil yet, and it's this dramatic moment, and she there's this character that just like pukes all this stuff onto her face, and it's just that moment alone should have made it a rated R movie because it's just so graphic. It's just like how can you get away with that? It's just, and it's not like a normal. It's like it's just so bad. It's so bad. It's good. I love it.
Yep. Tana says The Dark and the Wicked, also Deathgasm, even though it's a little older. Yeah, The Dark and the Wicked. That's another one that's on my backlog. I plan to watch sometime.
I'm gonna have to put that on my list. Nice one, Tanya.
Deathgasm. I've never seen Deathgasm.
That sounds like a fun one. Probably just a lot of blood.
Yeah,
I think I've seen that one.
Deathgasm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You thought about you and Tom's home videos?
No, I'm pretty sure someone recommended me and Tom watch it.
Well, now I gotta check it out. I gotta put it on my list.
But
we got two new flicks to watch. That's good.
Yeah. Well, we got such a backlog. I've got such a backlog with Twisted Dreams films.
Oh, it's probably difficult with the festival, and then on top of that, it sounds like your wife doesn't like to watch horror, so like you always have to watch them on your own. Then, well, good luck with that, right? Yeah.
We watched.
I did see Deathgasm
On Thanksgiving. I picked out a movie and we watched The Green Inferno again. Well, I watched it again. My kids watched it for the first time, and my wife was like, "Why are you playing this on Thanksgiving?" Like, well, I watched The Green Inferno. So one of the I was like in a
like a chat room the other day, and people were talking about like what's the reason you like watched horror? What's the first horror that like you inappropriately watched as a kid? Because that's everyone's reason why they like love horror so much, right? It's like if you were exposed to horror at a young age, there's a good chance that you love it as an adult.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I can't think of it. Like I'm just like beating my head up, and then it came to me, and I was like, mine is so traumatic an experience. It's like my family had just split up, and I went to a movie theater with one of my parents, and they took me to see People Under the Stairs in 1991. So I'll date myself here. I was 6 years old, and that movie messed me up. It was just like, it was so traumatic for a 6-year-old to experience that movie.
Yeah.
People just under these stairs that are just like zombie basically, and there's people running through the walls in the house. You're in this house the whole time, and it's just it's terrifying. So maybe that's one of the reasons that I like to make the contained horror, because that feels a very contained horror film.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah,
That's right. Deathgasm. Tom just wrote. It's about a book that starts the apocalypse if you play the certain chord of notes. I remember it now.
Oh, good.
It was actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
First horror film I remember seeing was 1979 Dracula with Frank Langella. Saw that at the drive-in, and I remember like the ending of it vividly, like it was yesterday. Like Dracula burning up in the sunlight. Like I remember that. Yeah, real vividly. And then 1982, I saw Creepshow. I was 10 years old. I just turned 10, dating myself, whatever. But I saw Creepshow in the theater. That's what, like, that hooked me on horror. Like, my God, this is amazing. And I was just
Creepshow.
Yeah, I got the same thing over there. Yeah, but that was the horror film that really got me hooked. And then I saw like Return of the Living Dead a couple of years later, and like that just like cemented it. Those are two of my favorite horror films to this day.
So do you like all of George Romero's stuff then? Is he like one of your favorites?
I don't love everything that he's done. Like Night Riders I could do without, but like Dawn of the Dead is his best zombie film. That's the best one. Night of the Living Dead I probably do without.
It was so cool to like reboot that Night of the Living Dead with the Dawn of the Dead, or the Day of the Dead. Is it Day of the Dead next or Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead is next.
Dawn of the Dead, yeah. And that reboot is like, the way he did that is just, it's amazing that he was able to like bring zombies back again from the dead almost, right?
I think Return of the Living Dead always has to be my favorite because of the awesomely cheesy acting.
Yeah. And that's a horror film that was able to balance horror and comedy just so perfectly. That's why it works so well. It's just a damn smart film.
Yeah.
It didn't take itself seriously. It knew what it was, and it didn't try to be anything that it wasn't. So
well, that's what, like, a good horror movie, like, even if it's campy, usually there's like a really good story that's keeping it timeless or like keeping it engaging. Some of the slasher stuff obviously is just more for the entertainment value, that, and some people it's nostalgic, but there's a lot of horror that people are just like, I'll watch that 10 years from now. I'll watch it again 10 years later. I'll watch it every year for Halloween if I really like it.
Right.
And that's like, there's not a lot of, especially now, content being made that is really that important. Like horror, especially horror, is one of the only genres that still like necessitates like a feature film, not necessarily a television show. Like everything's being stretched. Oh, can you make that into television? Like even if it was conceived as a feature film, they're like, can you make it into television? And I think horror still stands as one of those things that you're just like, it's better as a movie. It's better as a feature film. I like it.
Yeah.
Series that did pretty well that was horror though. The
Blair House or whatever, the Haunting of
Hill House.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. I mean, it did well with the public. It didn't necessarily deal well with me. It's got some really awesome things in there, but
it had good elements, but
yeah.
It
probably would have been better as a movie.
Probably. They dragged it out a lot, and it was.
And there was never a point where I was like scared, I guess. It was like more
confused.
Yeah.
I was confused.
kept on waiting. I was like, I think something's going to happen. It feels like they were setting up for like something really great. And then they never did a season 2 of that at all. So yeah.
You saw season 2, The Haunting of whatever.
So isn't that kind of the rule, like one of the golden rules of like whether or not you should make something television or a movie is like, is there a story that continues after, these characters, or like with these characters? Is there more to tell? And if there's not more to tell, then that definitely should have been a movie.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, well, the TV's doing like American Horror Story does that too, where they do like one story a season and then they move on completely different.
They were trying to follow that format. They're going to continue doing it, and probably the third version they'll learn from the second one. I maybe watched one episode of that. It wasn't for me. I know that they tried to use the same actors, which also American Horror Story does, but like I think people were ultimately confused with that one. But
yeah, I didn't see the whole first season. I didn't see any of the second season. It just didn't catch me. I just wasn't interested in it. But
there was this scene that I got real worked up about, because they were in this funeral home, and it was like this tense dialogue between the whole family, and the cinematography was so jarring to me that I thought it was just a mess, and I couldn't watch the scene. And I talked to some of my friends, and they're like, oh no, it was so cool. And they were cinematographers, so they were looking at something different than I was looking at. They were looking at they thought this was this really exceptional scene, and I thought it was so jarring. But
so I wonder what modern horror films today are going to be considered classic 50 years from now. I can't really think of anything.
I think like some of the ones we like, the Conjuring stuff, like the new It movie might hit that vein for some people. I think there's a lot of people who are growing up with horror now that those will be like their classics, like if that's what they saw as a kid.
Yeah.
But James Wan really put together a great catalog. Like that, the Insidious movie, the first one, is it's still terrifying. Every single time I see it, I'm just like chills. So, and I don't know. I'm excited to see what David Sandberg puts out in the future. I think he's like one of the best directors out there right now, and he's got this like desire to keep doing low budget or medium budget like horror while he's still trying to produce and direct like the Shazam franchise, which I won't get into how much I love this Shazam, but
oh yeah, that's right. You are a fan. They started filming Black Adam.
Oh, it's cool. What? That's going to have its own universe?
It's going to be its own thing, yeah.
Yep. So sick. Yeah. I did not know that was the thing. I thought they were just going to like have like just the Shazam franchise was going to be its own thing, but like, man, that's awesome. Who's directing that?
Let me look it up.
Somebody I probably don't know. Some guy who knows special effects, or some really talented woman who knows special effects.
Jayum Colette Sarah. I'm really butchering that name.
I'm not familiar with them, but I know that all the producers on that are amazing, so I'm sure they're gonna pick the right person.
He directed The Shallows. That would probably be the one film that everybody knows. The Shallows.
I'm asked if Black Adam was from Guardians.
Oh, he directed the House of Wax remake. That was okay. Well,
is that a long time ago now? The House of Wax? Is that like the one with Paris Hilton?
Yep, that was 2005.
Wow.
Nonstop with Liam Neeson, but he directed Jungle Cruise too for Disney.
Nice.
Ironically,
so he knows it. It's a. Did you say if it was a guy? Because I didn't know.
Yeah, it is a guy. It's a Spanish guy. He directed Orphan too.
Yeah, I mean they sound like they know how to handle a bigger project. So that's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
That's awesome. That franchise is going to be so. It's going to be DC's got a lot going for it right now. I will say that.
I haven't even watched this Shazam yet.
That's good. Aldous Hawkman.
I would put it on like high on your list. It's like such a fun movie. It hits all the right notes. It's got a little, because he's a horror director, he knows how to really put those elements in there. And man, it's a good movie.
Yeah, Tom. Black Adam is a well, is he an anti-hero? I don't know. Is he a superhero?
Yeah, I think he's both. I guess I think he walks that line.
He's a character.
He's one of the. He's like, but he is one of the core. There's like 7 core wizards or whatever they're called, and he's one of them, right? There's Shazam's family, and then Black Adam is the one that's missing. If you've seen the movie.
Yeah, there's one chair open that was Black Adam's. So hopefully we see him in the Shazam sequel. I mean, maybe
definitely will.
Black Adam will set that up.
Have an appearance from.
Got Kitty.
Oh yeah, mine. I gotta lock mine up in a bedroom when I'm doing this because my cat, she jumps up on my desk and then she'll just flaunt her ass in front of me.
I got a lamp over there. He's just rubbing his head on it, trying to get my attention.
Cute. So Tom brought up an interesting point. We were talking about the horror as series or shows. Does Twilight Zone count as horror?
Anthology stuff, I don't really count that as episodic necessarily. It's television for sure because it was on TV and that was the format that they were doing. But
they're kind of like shorts. But is it horror or is it?
Oh yeah, I would say it's.
Find some horror, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's got some horror for sure. I would definitely not just categorize it as sci-fi. Grounded science fiction and horror, I would say. Because there are some of those episodes that are just, they have all of this, every element that you would categorize as horror.
Every year they play a marathon on New Year's, and we normally will sit and watch them, and we will always find one that we haven't seen before. There are so many of them.
A few years ago, I had the DVD box set. And a few years ago, I sat and I watched every episode over like the course of a week. I think it's on Netflix.
I was going to say, a few years ago, I was just watching it because it was on one of the streaming platforms, and I watched everything, and then I went back and I was like, why? I was like looking and I was like, all these episodes I skipped because I didn't like the description in the thing. And I was like, it sounds boring. There's like a lot of them. They were dealing with what obviously like, it's almost like a lot of the topics that they're dealing are kind of Lovecraftian, where they're like bigger scale topics. They're not just, existential stuff that one person is dealing with. It's more like, how are they, fitting in this big world? And they were doing a lot of like nuclear stuff. And I was just like, pass. Like all these, like, it was like right after the war, a lot of them. So they were still talking about like anti-war stuff. And like, there's a lot of military episodes where they have lost soldiers and things like that. And I went back and watched those episodes. They're amazing. Everything that on that show is amazing. But like, at the time, it wasn't intriguing to me, I guess. So,
yeah. Tom says every movie was a Twilight Zone. He's a theory that like every movie he can point back to like that it could have roots in a Twilight Zone because there's so many of them, and they were kind of ahead of their time. And
we're gonna have to get a room with Tom just so we can hear how we're like. All right, Tom, how do you do Star Wars? Back to Twilight Zone. I want to hear that, and then a whole lot of. Let's go down the whole.
He's challenging you. Gauntlet thrown.
I will sit in on that podcast.
You have to connect Star Wars to Twilight Zone.
Oh, he's gonna do it now.
Do it.
Okay. Well, that will be the test if we can actually do the whole podcast. Because if he can do that, then he can probably do anything.
We'll tell him that. Freddy Krueger with Twilight? What? What is Tom smoking?
I believe that. I think that there was an episode that was similar to the Freddy Krueger thing where
on Twilight Zone? Well, they did stuff with dreams.
They did. They did lots of stuff like that.
There you go.
But anyway.
It's a good narrative thread, the dreams.
Yeah. Rod Serling had some amazing writers on Twilight Zone. Episodes that he didn't write. He had some super talented science fiction writers.
Yeah,
definitely.
Cowboys.
Now we have Black Mirror, so that's kind of the new replacement for that.
I'm hearing awesome things about it, but
I haven't seen Black Mirror. I've been told to.
It's really like it's so dark. It's like the stories are they don't make you ever feel good about humanity. So it's pretty bleak. So it's not, not required viewing if you're not trying to watch some really depressing stuff. But it is really great storytelling.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like Greg Nicoretto's Creepshow series. I thought that was an amazing first season. Can't wait.
That's what's on Shudder, right?
Yeah, it's on Shudder.
Yeah, I just saw that April 1st. I think we're getting a second season. So.
Yep. Without the Marilyn Manson episode though. But
he was in an episode and then they pulled it. Oh god.
Yep. So I don't know if we'll get that or not. Hopefully we do because I want to see it because it's Creepshow. But
yeah, so that means we have one less episode this season too. Yep. That feels like robbery. I hope they make it a longer season than the first season because like I really loved it. The first episode, like the girl with the dollhouse was just a fantastic episode. I have to rewatch it, but because it's been a while now. But
did you see
there was some really good stuff?
Did you see the Halloween special? And I think they did a Christmas animated special. There was
I think they're in reverse. I think the Halloween special was animated.
Right.
I saw that. That was really trippy, but it was weird that they did like a contained animated horror episode, I guess. I don't know. It didn't really do anything for me. It was cool, but and the Christmas one I thought was pretty wild. That was good. I like that. That was like crazy. I don't know. Did you see that one? The Christmas one? Mm-hmm. That's pretty batshit crazy.
Yeah, it was. Oh, Tom. Okay, let me explain.
He already has. He says he got one. He says the cowboy episode. They ran out of water. That was Star Wars.
They didn't. What?
Water was worth more than gold.
We'd have to watch it, and then I don't know.
Water was worth more than gold in the world. Time travelers came back, and they could afford only one drink, and it turned into heroes and damsels and stuff. Okay. I'm gonna have to talk to Tom about this.
He's stretching.
To be continued.
It might be a stretch, but
it's kind of impressive that he came up with that in that amount of time, though.
Is he drinking NyQuil? Because he said that he lost his throat. Is he, doing some medicine?
NyQuil? I don't know.
He's just like slowly falling asleep. He's like, Star Wars. Damn. One drink.
Water. Cowboys.
It's awesome.
He's just making stuff up.
So what do you think of the Snyder Cut coming up? I know that you have opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I went back and watched Batman versus Superman, and I remember like hating that movie when I first saw it. And I guess they only have the director's cut on HBO Max, and I watched it and I was like, oh, this is badass. This movie kicks ass. And I remember being like, the Lex Luthor character I hated in the original one. I don't know. I have to look what they added in there because his arc felt so much more like I actually cared about the character, which meant like there was a real villain to care about. And that felt like super like that was missing for me in the original version that I saw. So I'm excited for if they're going to make cuts like that where they change the movie, that it actually becomes, takes it from a turd to something I actually care about. I'm definitely excited. The only thing that like I don't like is really Ben Affleck, but
oh really? I thought he
was Batman. Yeah, he feels like and in Batman versus Superman, this newer cut, I thought he was much better. Again, I think their characters just had better arcs. I think there was a lot of that stuff they just cut out, and it was just like all action, and that doesn't work when you don't care about the characters.
I really didn't like the original. I don't know if I could even go and watch the director's cut.
Oh, the director's cut has so much more.
I didn't want to do it. Yeah, I didn't want to watch it either because I was like, I hate this movie. But if everyone was getting like so excited about this, this Snyder cut of Justice League, I was like, well, maybe I should go back and watch this. And I have a buddy, Lawrence Lasky.
Me and him are like two peas in a pod on Facebook. We're like,
yeah, he's a big advocate for it. So I was like, he's like, I watched it recently, and he was just like, it's so good again. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go watch it. So
I guess I could give it a try.
Give it a try. Yeah,
I didn't like Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah.
I didn't like all the weird, crazy, what were they, dream sequences?
The nightmare stuff. Yeah.
I didn't like that Batman had guns. It was just...
That's in the nightmare. That's in a dream. Well,
no, he had guns in the movie too.
He wasn't shooting bullets. He was shooting like rubber balls at people. He wasn't shooting people to kill them.
From what I've been hearing recently, though, like, I don't know what they did with the Snyder Cut, but like DC moving forward is like no guns.
It's just Batman doesn't use guns. Like, it just was very out of character for him.
Yeah.
Oh,
agreed.
I like Ben Affleck.
I'm not opposed to that.
I did. Yeah, I thought he was good.
Yeah.
Forward to seeing the Flash, seeing Michael Keaton back as Batman. Really,
that'll be cool. We'll probably get like a half of a minute of him.
Probably, I'm sure. Yeah.
Hopefully, we get more. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, I want to see him in his bat suit.
Yeah, the Flash is one of the ones that I'm very excited about too.
Interesting.
I like Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller is a fantastic actor.
I like the TV series, The Flash. I like what they did with that.
That was awesome too. It's like that. I think that's why they waited so long to put that Flash movie out, is because of like how successful the television show is.
Right. It's stuck in people's heads, and then they'll be like stuck on. That's not like the series. Yeah, it's not the guy.
That's not my Flash.
Tom says he's in a pod. Molly doesn't call Chris out for grandpa words.
Tom, I'm not mean, and I don't call people out.
Listen here, Sonny.
People can have their own vocabulary. He likes to call me out for using grandma words, he says, because I like using just quirky...
What grandpa word did Chris say?
I said 2 peas in a pod.
Okay.
And Larry.
The other day, Tom said something to the effect of that someone was getting their jaw on. And I was like, who uses that phrase? Who says that? Your grandpa. And he's like, everyone says that. I'm like, that's the first time in my life I've heard that. Let's ask Facebook.
In 38 years on this earth, I've never heard. I think that was popular in the 1930s.
Yeah. So now he's calling me out all over the place.
Nice.
Well, you have something to call him out on.
Yeah, well.
Go tell him to jaw with someone else.
Pipe down over there.
Quick down.
There you go. Oh my God. All right. Well, I guess this is about all the time that we have. Do you have anything you want to plug? Plug your film.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the big film that I have out right now is called The Box Fort. It's a 4.5 minute short, and it's going to be premiering at the Horror Hound Film Festival on March 19th through the 21st. And check it out.
Yeah, you can buy tickets online. It's all virtual. They've got an awesome lineup too. So not just for The Box Fort, but they've got a pretty good lineup. All right. Well, you're going to be coming back on when we do our DC versus Marvel podcast. That we're going to wait for the Snyder to come out so it can blow everybody away, and everybody's going to sing its praises and tell us how good it is, because it's going to be amazing. I know it is.
I might have to watch it and come on for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Brian. We'll do this again sometime.
Thanks for having me. Later, Chris. Later, Molly.
All right. And don't tune in next week, Thursday, because Mark Schultz, Olympic gold medalist, New York Times bestselling author, and UFC champion Mark Schultz will be on the show. Have a good week, everybody.